The times when I really struggled with my negative thinking, it was probably the worst times ever, because when you think a thought and you take that thought and you allow it to control your emotions, over time, it will physically start to show itself present in your body. So I could feel just this emerging space in my chest where it was just frustration, and I needed to release. I needed to be talking and speaking, and I needed a new perspective towards some of the situations and things that I was dealing with. Stopping the negative thoughts is the first step. Knowing, one, hey, this is a negative thought. This is not the frequency in which I want to be on, so this is a negative thought. You have to be able to identify and then have a strategy to not give into it, because there are so many things, especially now with the uncertainty of things, that can cause negative thoughts to linger and surface. And you just want to be able to know that when a thought does surface, it does not mean that that thought is true. It does not mean that what I'm thinking is going to happen. It's just I am reacting to something. I am reacting to an experience. So the first thing that you want to do whenever you're having a negative thought is to just simply acknowledge it. That is called self-awareness. You're able to understand me. Why am I falling into the pattern of thinking this way? Once you acknowledge it, you do not have to give it any identity in your life. You don't have to say, oh, this is good, this is bad. You just need to acknowledge that this thought came from a feeling or an emotion that is surfacing on the inside of my body. And if I do not sit and process and understand how that thought became something that I felt comfortable thinking, then you will eventually lose yourself. The next thing you do want to do is to refuse to be the victim. And a lot of times we can take on victim mentalities in situations. Refuse to be the victim when you are dealing with something, or when you're dealing with a negative thought, not something, a negative thought. When you're dealing with your negative mind and thinking and tendencies, refuse to be the victim by saying, I am not a negative thinker. I don't think negative. I'm not a negative person. I'm not, because I always say, if a person is consistently finding the negative in a situation, they need to reevaluate the inner, because there are just some emotions that are sitting inside of you that have not been heard or have not been expressed or were not even addressed. So a lot of times when you find yourself in a state of negativity, a lot of times there is deep emotion that have not been released or processed in the right way. And we then have to do the work ourselves to understand what brought upon this negative thought or negative feeling, and how can I release it. Now, once you get done with that, so you're going to acknowledge that this is something in my life that I need to think about, I need to deal with. Then we're going to go right into not being the victim of this thought. So because I thought something, I'm not going to be the victim of it. It was just a thought. So we have acknowledge your negative thoughts, whatever it is that you're feeling, that you're resonating, that emotion behind the thought. Let's acknowledge that. Let's be clear on that. Acknowledge, okay, cool, I'm having a negative thought. Boom, it's making me feel this way. Once you get that out, you have two different, you're seeing the full picture and not just the negative thought. Next, we're going to go right into not being a victim. Whatever it is that my mind just told me, I do not have to accept what it said or what I thought, even if it's something that I feel. No, if it's not positive, if it's not building you and leveling you up to your highest self, that was not for you. That was something that we're going to work on. So next, moving right along, to combat the anxiousness of a negative thought, you need to use your breath. So when you go into a negative thought, a lot of times, depending on how important that thought or whatever it is that you thought was to you, you'll feel a certain sense of anxiousness that follows behind the thought. Now, when you feel things like that, it is so tempting to keep digging and diving into that negative thought. But my advice for you is to think that you need to respond to your negative thoughts with positivity. The way you do that is you have to collect your mind. You cannot be in a positive state when your mind is so perplexed and far gone from where we are. So breathing, just a simple 4-count breath in and an exhale through the mouth. Just doing that, you will take back control, because the breath stabilizes emotion. Breath stabilizes the body functions. Use that to be able to pull yourself back onto the positive side, because that anxiousness and nervousness, you've slipped into negativity, because now your emotions are being controlled by something that we don't even know, that don't even have identity in our life. Got it? So using the power of your breath, it's as simple as breathing in, expanding your rib cages, and releasing. If you just do that for like 5 times when somebody pissed you off, or not even just somebody pissed you off, or you just feel bad, you will be like, okay, see, I was gonna do, see, it'll bring you back. Let your breath bring you back from everything. A negative thought is the number one thing. It's like, okay, I'm doing it again. Go right back into your breathing and take back control of the moment.